Hello, Blue Toad here, and if you're into synths, then I bet you either own or have thought about owning one of these. Korg Monotrons. These things, just like me, are tiny and dirt cheap, and unlike me, are beloved by many. And it's not really hard to see why. With these cute little plastic cases, honest to God analog oscillators, the much worshipped MS-20 filter, and on this one, an absolutely filthy delay. All this for maybe 1% of a 303. And so the question asks itself, if I have owned both of these things for maybe 7 years now, how come I've barely used them in any of my music? I mean, I've forced them into projects here and there. The Monotron delay is very, very good for these kind of 70s sci-fi sounds. But really, for the amount of time I've had these and the amount of time I spend messing about with them, I've produced quite little finished music using them. And so today, if you will give me the time, let's make some Monotron music. Come with me. Welcome to Synth Studio. We've got the tools laid out in front of us, namely the Monotrons Duo and Delay, and just off frame we have absolutely crucial backup in the form of lots of batteries. So we're geared up for success already. Let's discuss the capabilities of these machines before we actually consider how we might be able to make some music with them. These two I have in front of me are actually the second and third entries in, if you like, the Monotron trilogy. There is an original one, which for some reason they don't make anymore, which is actually a pretty big shame because there are some features on that these two don't have. In fact, each Monotron has its own kind of gimmick, its own angle, and what that means is that they're each capable of things that the others just aren't quite able to do. The Monotron Duo here is all about the oscillators, and as the name might suggest, you get two of them. This is the only Monotron where that happens, and it's also the only Monotron with a square wave oscillator. So I have one on its own here, and you can also kick in a second, independently tune it, and also have it cross-modulate that original oscillator. Which is something that, to be honest, I've found pretty limited use for while I've had this thing. You get a more fully featured filter on this one than on the delay. The delay only has control of the cutoff, whereas on here you get the cutoff and the resonance or the peak. And this being the MS-20 filter, which can go to some really nasty places, it's nice to have that resonance control on here. Meanwhile, over here we have the delay, and again, as the succinct name might suggest, you get a delay on this one. That's the gimmick. This is probably the most popular of the Monotrons, and it's easy to see why. The filter on here is more basic than on the other two models, so you only get control of the cutoff. You get a saw wave oscillator, you also get that on the original model, and crucially, you get this delay circuit here. It's easy to make it sound atrocious, and it's also surprisingly easy to get some really fun sounds out of this. On each Monotron you get these cute little ribbon controllers, which are varying degrees of completely useless. The Monotron Duo is unique because you get this cute little red button on the back, which lets you choose between different kinds of scales. So you turn it on, you get this chromatic mode, but you can also get a major scale, a minor scale, and just plain old glissando. On the original, the only thing that you get is this glissando, which is charming in its own little way. You get some vibrato control, but really playing any kind of melody on this is very difficult. Getting this cute little scale button on the back seems to indicate that this is the Monotron of choice if you want to play melodies, and I suppose that technically if you really wanted to, you could do that, but the tuning across all of these models is incredibly unstable. The Monotron delay also has this ribbon keyboard layout, but where the keys on this guy more or less relate to actual notes, on here it seems like they're just based on vibes. You get low sounds, high sounds, and really the rest of it just runs the gamut of about 4 octaves. You can change slightly the range of the oscillator from highest to lowest using this screw, but basically no matter what you do, this ain't sounding like a keyboard. I've tried, mostly in vain. It is possible to about approximate melodies by using absolutely tiny micro adjustments, but similar to playing melodies on this, it's really an exercise in godly patience to play melodies on any of these. I'm so excited to be doing that in a moment. You get a couple more goodies on each of these. So on here you get a pitch LFO with rate and intensity controls, and also with controls for the waveform of that. So you can go from these round triangular waveform sounds and a square wave, which in combination with the delay is a one-way ticket to cheese heaven. Hey, welcome to space. Sorry, that was getting pretty boring down there, wasn't it? Apologies for that. How about we make some actual music, just using the synth engines of these little blue and black boxes. So let's start with 4 layers of Monotron Duo. We'll just kind of pan them about a bit, make some little chords. That sounds like this. Then we can use the saw wave from the Monotron delay, get a really nice kind of harmonically rich bass line that sounds like this. And then we can get to work on some drums. So let's take the MS-20 filter, do something a bit like the Volca kick, make a kick drum out of the resonance. Kick. We can make a noisy little feedback loop on the Monotron delay, and then extract a little snare drum type sound from it. Snare. And then we could just, I don't know, for a hi-hat, just switch them on or something. Hat. Let's put all of that together and you end up with something like this. Oh, and if you were wondering how I managed to play so nicely and in tune without any of the scale modes or anything, the answer is that I didn't. I tried my hardest, but I had to Melodyne it for the sake of my own sanity. Here's a little sneak peek of what it sounds like without Melodyne. So that was kind of fun, if of course by fun what you mean is actually, in practical terms, quite a miserable music production experience. But we managed to get at least something out of them. Now, ask anyone why they dropped real life money on these things that really do look like, and probably so far have sounded like, toys. And what they're going to tell you is they got it for the processing capabilities. On each of these, you get an input, which is absolutely enormous because it means you can run things through, you know, your really famous MS-20 filter that people went crazy for, or through a kind of neutered MS-20 filter, but also this crazy lo-fi delay circuit. It's worth noting that when these things came out, coming on 15 years ago now, they really did herald this kind of analog renaissance. These were the first analog synths that Korg made in about 25 years or so, or at least the original Monotron was. There was by no means the kind of trend and almost saturation for analog instruments that we see nowadays. So these things brought it on. Having a MS-20 filter that you could just run anything through was huge. We now have these two guys linked up, and what that means is that if I play something through here, That's now passing through into the delay circuit of the delay. We could also run it through the delay's filter if we wanted to do for some reason. And we could also sound each of these synths at the same time. If you were really feeling like doing that. Maybe we could tap out a little melody and hear it running through the Monotron delay. You could also, if you wanted to, for whatever reason, have these running the other way round. Maybe have the sounds created by the delay running through this more fully featured filter from this guy. But if you can seldom believe it, it gets even more exciting, because you ain't limited to just daisy chaining these two things, each with their limited capabilities together. Via these, you get access to the outside world. So, for instance, if I run a line out from my sound recorder into these, what I get is the ability to affect my voice. I can get live vocal manipulation. I can get live vocal filtering. I can get all kinds of zonal effects. And as you might expect, you can run literally anything through this. You can run electronic instruments through this. You can run acoustic instruments through this. I'm going to try both of those. And unlike this joker in the hat, I'm not going to belabor the point for another 3 minutes. Just for one. Ever heard of Neutral Milk Hotel? Probably not there, pretty obscure. But the thing about them is that they have an incredibly distorted sound, and yet A, it's pretty much all acoustic guitars, and B, by all accounts, there are no distortion pedals anywhere near all of their most well-known recordings. Instead, the distortion that they make is via overloading of just regular old gear, which gives me the idea. Why don't I record acoustic guitar in stereo, that is, miking up one side for one signal and using DI for the other signal, and then running each of those signals super hot through Monotrons, not even necessarily applying any effects, just overloading the circuitry. Can I achieve organic distortion? Let's move on from that as fast as we can. Here's a breakbeat that I cooked up like ages ago. So applying the same principle as I just did a minute ago, what would happen if I took the left and right signals from this breakbeat and ran each one through its own monotron? Of course, this time I've got my hands free so I can adjust the effects whenever I like. And just like I did a minute ago, I can run the signal pretty hot to distort a little bit and then, also spice it up with live effects. How's that gonna sound? Conclusion. Oh my goodness, are the Monotrons fun? Are they also basic? Yes. Are they toys? Yeah, probably, but isn't also every other synth a toy? Like, we do realise that hardware synths are an obsolete technology now, right? Everything that I own could be called a toy compared to software a fraction of its price. So as long as something is fun and inspiring, which I think that both of these things are in great measure, then I think they're very much worth having and worth liking. The feature sets on these are very basic, but that also means they're focused, and with the aux inputs, the possibilities are actually as endless as the entire field of sound recording. During the month I've been working on this video, I've had these two things sat on my desk, and if I had £1 for every time I went down a sound design rabbit hole with them, I could probably afford like 4 more Monotrons because these things are so cheap. So if you're thinking of getting one, I say do it. But before you do, maybe I could convince you to subscribe. I'm aware there's also loads of modding potential with these things, and that's not a world that I've ever gone into before, but I would really like to do it. So please let me know if that's something you'd be interested in seeing. Oh, and if you like that drum and bass track just now, then consider saying some nice things about it in the comments, and then that'll validate me and I'll feel really good about myself, and then maybe I'll finish it and pop it up on some platforms. But I need the validation first. It's a prerequisite. Anyway, I think that does me, so thank you very much for watching my YouTube video. Love you, bye!